J Squad.
We gotta find now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. Find that's the first clue. We gotta find that's the first clue. That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. Find that's the first clue. We gotta find that's the first clue. That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. Find that's the first clue. We gotta find that's the first clue. That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. Find that's the first clue. We gotta find that's the first clue. That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. Find that's the first clue. We gotta find that's the first clue. That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. Find that's the first clue. We gotta find that's the first clue. That's the first clue. Find the program. Find that's the first clue. We gotta find that's the first clue. That's the first clue.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? All right. I see already Benzie saying something in the chat. Let me pull that back up. No, sorry, the nights you were streaming or you were doing commentary all of a sudden got interesting. I appreciate it. I like talking shit online. I mean, I don't watch the commentary community for no reason. I enjoy that kind of banter. But today we're going to be bringing on a guest. I should have asked him. It's Marc is what I know him as on X. He is a more left-leaning guy on the spectrum, so probably more woke, as you would say. And we're gonna have a conversation, talk about some woke stuff and some anti-woke stuff, and see where it takes us, and see if we can come to an actual conversation. But let me go ahead and get him on here. Marc, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you
All
hear me?
right. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Sounds interesting. Like it. Hey, what's going on, Kamoji? Again, I'm probably saying that wrong.
Yeah, I just saw Kamoji on I was on McDizzle's stream just about like a few moments ago.
Nice. How was that? I thought about popping in and looking.
Man, that dude covers some fucking juicy ass drama sometimes. It is hilarious the shit that he finds.
Yeah, he's good.
It
He's like a true journalist.
he fucking is. Like I see him cover some shit. I'm like, dude, how the fuck did you get this info? Holy shit.
But yeah. I mean, that's where I get a lot of the stuff that I find is seeing him do it. But go ahead. We'll go ahead, and if you want to introduce yourself, Marc. Marc, right? Is what we're
Sure.
saying.
Yeah, just listen, I'm no one special. I'm just a rando from freaking Twitter or X, whatever the fuck they call it nowadays. My name's Marc. I do consider myself, I guess you could say, like, yes, a left-leaning progressive person, a little less PC than the usual types. I don't mind dropping a slur or two sometimes. It's gonna piss somebody off, whatever. I don't give a shit. Other than that, I love video games to death. I've been playing games since I'm like freaking 5 years old. I grew up with them. It's been like a passion of mine for like forever. And I got in touch with Wargaming Dad because, in all honesty, like I feel like the whole gaming discourse online has gotten like really muddied. Like the discussion in general. There's like so many bad actors. Found this guy. I was like, listen, he seems to have like some agreements and opposing views to me, but I think he's honest. So I think we could have a good conversation about the current climate. Again, things that we agree with, things we disagree with, and yeah, just basically see where it goes from there.
Yeah. All right. That sounds good. Yes. Benzies and everyone seems happy. So I figured we'd start out with not the most relevant topic now. Twitter is blown up about Kingdom Come Deliverance. They can't leave that game alone. But the body type situation going into Oblivion, and yeah, I mean, just in general, what's your kind of take on the whole body type argument?
It's one of those things that I find so minuscule. Like I just see it as like a non-issue, and it's also like one of those easy targets that like again those like you could say like people like Grums on X whatever that they do their best to like go after like every little thing, and I just don't understand why you need to target that specific type of thing. It just doesn't seem like a big issue for me. I know the question goes around like, oh well, if it isn't a big deal, so to speak, then why did they change it? And my takeaway is like, well, you don't know if they changed it was a big deal or not. No company has ever confirmed the reason why they changed it. No one's ever said. They just did it. You can speculate all you want, but no one has ever said anything. So again, it's just a non-issue for me. And if you have an opinion on that too, we can basically bounce off from there.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a part of me that agrees with you, right? That it's kind of a non-issue. I think it can become like, to me, it's obvious that it's being done for woke points, right? It's a way to make it more open for the crowd, but I don't think it's necessarily always done wrong. You want to get into like Oblivion, did it really need to be done? No, not really. It's kind of a strain. It's done lazily, right? It's not done with any kind of thought process into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I have a problem with it. You know what I mean?
I mean, at the end of the way that I see it is like, okay, let's say, for example, that it was done, as you say, for woke points. And
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm giving that the benefit of the doubt because that actually probably most likely is the reason behind it. My question still is, so what? Even if it was done for that, or usually I think that the answer that's the answer that you gave. I think sometimes the people that answer that they're looking for is because it's a quote unquote trans agenda, so to speak.
I love the
And
trans
again, I
agenda.
also, but again, I also get within the purview of, okay, and I just don't see why it can bother people to the extent that it does. I mean, if you have like a curiosity or maybe like an inkling of like, okay, this could be pandering, sure, that's I can understand that argument. Absolutely, companies are known to be pandering, and I honestly speaking, even I had gripes with it. But to make it into such a big stink, it just that doesn't really like it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think like Kimoji made a good point, which you already kind of talked about, is it's lazy pandering, and this is where my kind of argument comes in with where Oblivion it is lazy pandering, so it can irk you a little bit more. I'll still say it's no more than an eye roll for me,
Mhm.
um, by itself. But Baldur's Gate 3, from what I understand, which I don't remember. I have to pull it back up, but people I've talked to, like Kimoji and stuff like that, are pretty confident in it. So I don't see any reason not to believe them. Is that they did it right? They thought through the process. Um, you can pick the body types. You can then pick male or
Mhm.
female. You can then pick your voice.
Yeah,
So you can, why was Baldur's Gate's 3's method never questioned, but Oblivion's was? And I almost think it's that laziness is what gets to people.
absolutely. And to be honest with you, like again, like I said before, I get it. Like the pandering can be
Mm-hmm.
very, very obvious for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this also goes into the discussion of like when is it that representation, so to speak, goes like the right way, and when it ends up being like a trophy thing. And when it's like a trophy thing, like they're just trying to like tokenize it, so to speak, I'm not a fan of that. It's almost like the whole rainbow capitalism type of talk that
Mm-hmm.
happens sometimes. You know, it's again, it's very apparent. But if a company does it, I mean, what is right, right? Like, who are we to deem was correct and whatnot? But at the end of the day, we could still say, like, if as long as we see that there's like good writing behind it, there was at least some sort of like passion behind what they're trying to accomplish or whatever message they're trying to get out there. That's definitely fine by me. Is it a problem with other games? Sure. Is it pandering? Sure. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of it, it still is something that doesn't really like it just doesn't affect me. Like I see it and it doesn't even give me like an eye roll. It's just more like a okay. Next. It's like there for like 2 seconds. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
it is there for 2 seconds. It's something I don't even notice, and I don't think I noticed in other games until the anti-woke brought it up. Uh, it was Kimoji. Kimoji's all about it. Tokenization has become something hard to define because it's watered down so much. Which,
True.
yeah,
I agree.
yeah, I agree with that. Um, and I mean, tokenization is usually a form of what's it called? Pardon me with forgetting words. I have a my frontal cortex is bad. Uh, it's basically like stereotypes. That's what I'm thinking of. Stereotypes.
Yes.
Uh,
Thank you.
and
That's what the word I was looking for earlier too.
yeah, and it's stereotypes come from a place of truth at some point or another.
I
So
mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you're good. What were you gonna say?
Well, for example, I'm a big fan of Dragon Quest games. Love Dragon Quest to
Mm-hmm.
death. By the way, that's my thing. I love JRPGs. Anything Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest. I'm mostly like a single player type of game. Also, like I'm not really much of a competitive player with
Mm-hmm.
multiplayer stuff and whatnot. But going back to Dragon Quest 11 has the most obvious queer character, and it's his name is Sylvando. But
Mm-hmm.
he is so he's so good. He's so good written. Like his writing is done so well that it's almost like he's just integrated so well into the story that it's not something that I think people will get like upset about, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, is it here? Do you consider it like obviously the story is good? Would you consider it like a caricature
He
or
can't.
a
I'm not gonna lie.
yeah?
He can be like a bit like flamboyant at times, but I think they just made that as like part of his character because he's also like someone who's trying to like bring happiness to the world as the way that he puts it into the story. And again, he's just so well written. You have to play the game for like, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
really bad at giving it. But he's the way that he's written, as the way he tries to like help the party, and how he brings like sort of like a light to like darker situations. Is
Mm-hmm.
again, he's an amazingly written character. But then you have on the other side of the aisle. Let's talk about Dragon Age Veilguard for a second. Let's
I
let's
love this subject.
let's get into that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I am personally a Dragon Age fan. Not gonna lie. Uh, I love the Inquisition, Origins, 2, whatever. 2's fucking whatever. But Veilguard, I was hyped for. I played through it, finished it, did all the side quests. Now, there's that character Tosh that everyone uses in like their clickbait thumbnail with her screaming or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I I get what they were trying to do. She is very poorly written.
Yeah.
She is a very unlikable character.
I think with me, it's more than just that. For all the things that I've seen, like we talk about, yeah, it has the body type stuff, and from what I've seen, it seemed very lazily done. I don't know if you could pick anything outside of body type, like the way Baldur's Gate 3 did, and I always make comparisons to that game.
Mm-hmm.
Vincent came in here and he said, no wonder he's woke. I guess talking about your Dragon Quest. And then Kamoji said, I think its better question would be, is it written like an MCU character? And that I agree with. I'm so tired of quirky characters. But back to Veilguard. I
Mm-hmm.
already had my my and I'm a huge Dragon Age fan. Dragon Age was one of my favorite games growing up. I hated 2 because of the combat, but the story was awesome. Through
Yeah.
Inquisition, I enjoyed, even though a lot of people hated it. There's a very
Same.
well written trans character in Inquisition. I
Clem.
forget it. Glenn. Yeah. So, which I didn't even notice when I played it. So I think that's a
Yeah.
good idea of how it's well written. But when after Inquisition came out, I remember the lead director, I think he is, say, well, I guess it's not a he anymore, it's a she, uh,
Mm-hmm.
changed, flat out said, I'm going to put it, not, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, that she was
Mm-hmm.
going to, excuse me, woke out the game, you know, she was going to put as much political ideology stuff in it as I can. So I already had a bad view of it, and I held on to that. I'm a bitter old man. I held on to that for
Mm-hmm.
all of the 9 years it took him to make that game.
Oh
Uh,
my god.
so getting it, there's problems that I do have with it where I feel like it's the whole thing is just a pandering mess. You have body type, you have the surgery scars, you have it wasn't just the Tosh character, though I see how badly written that was. It was also the talking down to you with the push-ups for misgendering someone. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Now I haven't played the game. I kind of like at the time I wasn't content create. I had just started this journey, and I was like, I'm not paying for a
Mm-hmm.
game that I'm gonna hate. I'm not gonna 100% a game like other people in
Yeah.
the community. But
Well, the thing is that the whole thing with Tosh is also like it's also kind of frustrating how the whole Chud anti woke crowd like really did zero in on Tosh because in all honesty, she is skippable. Like you don't have to. She was just an easy target. Was she poorly written? Absolutely.
mhm.
Was it preachy? Absolutely. I'm not saying that it wasn't, but I think the frustrating part, and I think this applies to like many areas of like the whole anti woke crowd, so to speak, is when they zero in on something that is an obvious choice, just an obvious fucking choice. You can let it go. I'm not saying you can't criticize it for what it is. I think constructive criticism is a good thing. But when you base your entire narrative to like making like 50,000 videos just to like dunk on this one thing because you want fucking clicks, I think that's dishonest.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Um, I was definitely in the trenches on the anti woke side with uh, though I did argue with a few, or no, yeah, a few anti-wokers. But yeah, I don't like the focusing in on one thing. I think if you're going to make an
Mhm.
argument, then you need more than just, oh, well, like if I talk about an argument, I'm going to talk about what that issue is. And if people
Yeah.
want to argue with me, we'll go from there. But I'm not going to make 16 videos on
Yeah.
Alyssa McConte or whatever dumb stuff.
And that's the thing. Like, if usually, again, when it comes to like that side of the aisle of the whole,
Hmm.
I guess grums or whatever the fuck you want to call them, people. Excuse me. Yeah, see, I had coffee before this conversation, so it's kind of like popping up right now.
That's all right. I'm
But
sipping on a Coke.
if not, I'm 41. It's past my bedtime. Yeah, I probably would have passed out. But I needed that coffee. But either way, God, where the fuck was I going with that? Oh yeah, the whole thing where like you said, like if you have an argument, you're gonna state why you have it. But I'm sorry, the way social media goes about it, especially on the chud side, is basically just like trans bad or black person bad. It's like, oh, dude, I need more. Like, what do you mean just bad? I need you to tell me why you think it's bad. You can't just say this thing bad and that's it. And I think it sucks that people like really fall for it too. They're like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, trans representation bad. Like, dude, but what do you mean just bad? Tell me why. Give me a legitimate reason so that we can have at least some form of conversation about it. Because maybe we'll find something to agree with, maybe not. Again, there's I know gaming has been like the gaming culture has been like very divisive lately, but in all honesty, like it's like nobody just wants to give a reason, and that bothers me because I can give a counter argument, but I'm trying to give you a chance first to uh to give me something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I can understand that. I mean, I would argue we see the same arguments on the left, right? Uh, you have the same. Well, it's for inclusion. It's treating. God, I'm trying to think of some of the arguments now because it's been so long since I really argued against a wokey.
And that's
But
proof that the tables have fucking turned because
exactly.
not for anything, we have not been in that SJW period for like quite a while now.
Yeah, I mean, there's still leftovers, of course, that are
Oh
kind of
yeah,
going
absolutely.
through. And when you said that gamers are divisive right now, I would argue we always have been. The conservatives were the first ones to try and push into gaming. When I was younger, I remember it making mainstream news. Oh, gaming causes violence, and we need to make all these laws for gaming. And we pushed them out at
Hmm.
that time because gamers don't, especially back then, politics weren't a part of gaming. And
Yeah.
then it came up with the wokies, and with the wokies, it's a lot of the same arguments now. That I think about it that you see in normal politics. You're being abusive to trans, or you're. It's funny. All right, they make the same arguments that a lot of these anti-wokes are making right now. I had people talk about do you need body type, and you go into the why not, and they would say, well, they're erasing males and females, which is the same argument I've heard from the left. They're not allowing trans to be part of the game, things like that, which
I,
was all good.
I, I'm sorry. I think that left-leaning people need to switch up their narrative a little bit.
Hmm.
Like, because being on that side of the spectrum, I understand where they're coming from. They are asking for, diversity, representation, and in all honesty, in my view, that's fine. I
Hmm.
have no problem with diversity and representation whatsoever. Again, as long as it's nicely written, and I'll give an example in a minute. But the problem is that, and this is basically online culture in general.
Hmm.
Everyone's just too combative about what they want without giving anyone some sort of leeway of a conversation. And I'll be honest with you, especially during the whole 2013, 2016, 2018 Gamergate days of those,
Hmm.
the actual Gamergate days, not the fake one that's happening right now. But
Gamergate 3.
oh my god. But during those times, even I was like, and again, I consider myself a progressive person, but I was also pretty critical of like okay, I get what you guys want, but you got to be careful the way you ask for it. You can't just be like so demanding about it. You know,
Hmm.
there's a way to there's a way to go about the conversation. And I'll give you a good example about, for example, what I consider to be, representation and whatnot. I'm Puerto Rican, right?
Yeah.
Now, I fully understand that there's not that much representation of Puerto Ricans in games, but I don't give a
Hmm.
shit. It's not something that bothers me. I'm just acknowledging that it's a thing. Um, I played Spider-Man Miles Morales. Love that game.
Yeah.
Now, his mother is Puerto Rican. And when you go, there's a part in the game, you go into her apartment, and there's Puerto Rican food all over the place. It looked like my mom's house at dinner. And you get a choice of like playing music in the background, and I saw there was like salsa music. I'm like, holy fuck, I'm Puerto Rican. I can't dance for shit, but I like salsa music. I'll put this fucking record on. And it basically gave me like just a moment like, oh man, this is fucking nice. This was nice. This was a nice experience. Now I'm not
Hmm.
saying that the entire game needs to be about his Puerto Rican heritage or whatever, because even that would be a bit too much for me. I'd be like, too much Puerto Rican-y. I don't need all that. But just having like that small moment, it kind of put me in a perspective of like, I can see why sometimes people ask for at least something, because
Hmm.
it's I would want people to like also experience that moment for themselves, no matter who they are. And that's why I don't have mind you, I even feel this way about conservative people. I think they have just the right to make a conservative game with Christian values, whatever the hell they want, so they can feel some sort of connection to this art medium, so to speak. I think everyone has a right to that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that idea at all. I'm a big free speech guy when it comes to anything and stuff like that. Uh, since we're on the topic of Spider-Man, though, what do
Mhm.
you like? Do you think the trans flags in that quest are too much? Like, yes, I would agree that the Filipino mother with making the house authentic and stuff like that, so it fits into it. And I
Mhm.
don't know, and I'll be honest, I don't know much about the quest in question. I've only ever seen the pictures of the flag, so I'm not speaking from an area of knowledge. I don't know
Mhm.
everything about that quest, but was that really necessary to put in all the trans flags uh, for that quest? Is
Well,
it the same?
before I address that, I'm gonna address what Taira Kamaji said. Yeah, I remember when they they did it by accident. They put a Cuban flag instead of a Puerto Rican flag. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was fucking hilarious. It didn't bother me, but it was funny as fuck. They did fix it, but I just thought it was funny. Like,
No, it
yeah,
was
I
a
remember.
simple
I
mistake.
remember it was a simple mistake. Yeah, the flags are very similar. Yeah, I remember
Hmm.
that. It was hilarious. But the way that I'll say with the Spider-Man game, no, I played it. I played through the quest, whatever. You barely see. First of all, I know they popped up in images, but when you play the game, they're not really that apparent. And
Hmm.
let's be realistic here. I mean, it is kind of representing New York in a way. I'm originally from New York City, and
Uh,
New York is gay as fuck.
yeah,
I'm,
yeah, I
I'm
won't
sorry.
question that.
Nuke is gay as fuck. But at the end of it all, like no, like they're not. It's not like there's a trans flag. Like there's a freaking bodega in New York City, like in every corner. Nah, it's just in a couple of spots here and there.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
if I, for example, if I were to play a game that takes place in the South, and if I were to see like a Confederate flag, I'd be like, hey, you know what? That kind of fucking fits.
I would argue not others would see it that way, though. They would immediately be called racist on the lefty side. Uh, and for a lot of the same reasons. Like I used to uh, be, I'm not a redneck. I'm a city boy in the South, but I hung
Hmm.
out with a lot of very redneck people. So I had friends who got Confederate flag tattoos. I had some friends who were ultra racist. Like I don't know
Hmm.
if you know, it's not Charlie Daniels. There's a country singer that literally part of his thing is singing racist songs. He was big friends with Chris Rock and a lot of other things back in the day.
Yeah. Actually,
But
I want to ask you.
mhm,
Since we're doing like comparisons here,
mhm.
let's put it on a scale. In your opinion, who do you think is like more bitchy now, so to speak? Is it the left woke side or is it the right leaning side, in your view?
Right now, I feel like the anti-wokes are the bitchiest right now.
Okay.
That's definitely why I've moved away from that side. I mean, there's still people, like, I haven't gotten into a real argument with a wokey person since the Dragon Age Veilguard incident, but
Mm-hmm.
that's mostly because I've fed most of my stuff. Hey Grizzle, welcome to the chat. We're getting into talk with this with Marc here, see what we can agree and disagree with. But I don't necessarily think that the wokes are less bitchy now. I just think that they're not the loudest people in the room. Because you can still see, like, there's people that I get compared to now that I argue against the anti-woke, that I
Mm-hmm.
see their tweets and I'm like, nah, I don't agree with that dude. But a lot of them are more
I feel you.
politic focused, so I don't dig into them too much. If they were more gaming focused, I'd go against them. I've even argued with some of those guys a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, but they tend to we tend to come to some agreement. Now, whether that's because I've talked good with them and well with them in the past and they like my views against Grums, or whether they've actually seen it, whether I've actually got to a good conversation with them is yet to be seen.
See, now in my personal opinion, I think we've hit a point where I think, and I could be proven wrong later on. I'm just speculating for the moment. I think we've hit a point where, like, I guess the left, wokey people, so to speak, I think they've learned to appreciate more. And this is why I personally see them to be like less bitchy than they were back during the first Gamergate time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they've learned to like appreciate what they get a bit more. And they've actually been enjoying like all these, because I follow like since again I'm a left-leaning person, I follow a bunch of them, especially gaming ones, on all platforms. Like I'm on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, also, and on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
They all are just like enjoying the fuck of what comes out, and
Mm-hmm.
whether it be Expedition 33, Metaphor Refantasio, Persona 3 Reload, the remake of it.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to argue a bit when it comes to Final Fantasy games, but that's just the Final Fantasy community in general.
I know that very well.
Unicorn, yeah, Unicorn Overlord, and what, like, these games come out and they just enjoy them. And I think we've gotten to a point where I think the tide has shifted so fucking much that whatever SJWs were worried about back in the day, are there still some loud ones every now and then? Sure. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying that they are way less now, and we're dealing with this big ass shift where it's like, okay, now the opposite side of the spectrum is just not enjoying anything. And the problem with that is many of those people who are promoting those ideas, there are dipshits whining about Persona 3 and 4. True. But dude, that's the Persona community.
I mean,
but he's not wrong though. But but you get people like again, the whole anti-woke, I guess you want to call them, like, leaders of the crowd again, like Grum, Smash, whatever, who the fuck it may be. They put these ideas out there and they tell people what to be mad about. And I think it's more frustrating to see them actually get mad about these things instead of enjoying them. I'm in the purview, like, man, I love this hobby. I love gaming, and I would love for everyone to enjoy it as much as possible also. Like, I'm not a gatekeeper or anything like that. And it really does suck to see them just fall for that. What the fuck are you so angry about? What are you so mad about?
So, and again, this is coming from a guy who is very anti-woke. I think there was very much some arguments to be made around that. What I think happened, and this goes into probably why we're not seeing the woke bitch so much, is it's been taken over by what I would assume is non-gamers. Because if you look at Smash's history, he may have been a gamer that played on the side, but that was not his online persona. He did a lot of other things trying to make it big. He didn't get into the anti-woke scene until like one video that he did on it that blew up, and then he went full force into it. So it's the same, I think, with a lot of these guys. Who is it? Indy, I think, is my saddest moment because he's been in it for a long time. for a while, and I used to think he had a lot of good points, and he seemed more moderate. But as of late, all of them have gone crazy. I've never liked Grums. You say, gamers enjoy things. No, we bitch about everything. And I don't mind that. That's how we get better games. Sometimes, people go overboard. You get the crazies online who do death threats, and Smash was on the retro gaming scene and got laughed out of it. That doesn't surprise me. Retro gaming's, you got to be careful what niche you get into with gaming, because if you don't know that niche, some of them are more rabid than others, I'll say, right? Like the Nintendo Smash community is full of pedophiles. Final Fantasy guys are always fighting. Some of them are rabid. But to get back to it, I think like it's been the same way that the left got taken over by activists. I believe the right's been taken over by activists. So that's where I've turned and started fighting. And I really have no doubt that we'll kick them out as well as we did the wokies at that time. I just hope this time we can stop the pendulum in the middle. Even those in commentary don't think highly of Smash JT. Yeah, I've listened to like Chud's take, and he just thinks he's a weirdo loser. So we go from there.
When you say activists, what do you mean exactly?
People who are in it for some kind of political motivation. Usually when I think of an activist specifically for gaming, they're trying to push their ideological idea onto games. It used to be the wokies saying, hey, everything needed to be inclusive. Now it's the anti-wokies saying nothing can be inclusive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just curious because every time somebody I always get like a different answer. So I was just curious as to what yours was. I guess my reply to that is that sure, I think people really do push the whole activist type of agenda that try to put forward and whatnot. Like again, like the anti-wokes or someone who's trying to push their own thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is gonna sound pretty bad, but everyone is a virtue signaler. Everyone's a freaking activist at the end of it all. I guess it just depends on what you agree with and don't agree with, so to speak. And again, I'm not saying that people don't overdo it. They definitely do on both sides of the spectrum. But everyone in their own way. I mean, us speaking here in a way, we're kind of like doing like not activism, I guess, but kind of virtual signaling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hate the term virtue signaling because I think it's overused, but I get what you're trying to say on that. It's everybody has some kind of agenda on the way they want things. They're trying to,
correct. Yeah.
Like my agenda is to get what I think are activists out of gaming. Hold on, Vincent, are you saying that Smash was involved in the tipster drama? Because I don't see him making it very far in the commentary community. He's that's a rough community to be in. I have to go find that now. Sorry, got a little derailed there.
Isn't Destiny FOMO that girl who collects the Nintendo 64 games?
She might be. We can look it up here. Going off on a little
tangent.
A little tangent. I wasn't in the comment. I wasn't watching commentary at that time, so I don't know a lot of the old Tipster drama. Tipster was already gone by the time I got into it. You know anything about the commentary community?
A little bit, not too much.
Yeah, gotcha. I think everyone at some point, because they touch just about everything. Yeah, Destiny FOMO, Toad cosplay,
Retro Ego. Yeah, that's
Retro
the
Ego.
one.
Yeah. Okay, so that's funny. I'll have to look that up. But getting back on subject, we're talking about activism. My activism would be kicking activists out of gaming. I forgot where I was going with that.
No, but I get what you mean. But I guess my point is that everyone in some way or another, well, not everyone, almost everyone, I should say, everyone's got a fucking agenda. Everybody does.
True.
And to say oh, I don't want this agenda in gaming. I know some people don't like this phrasing, but at the end of the day, I mean, gaming is art, and people are going to have a message on whatever side of the spectrum that they're on. Everyone's going to have a message that they're going to want to put forward. The same thing can be said about music. Same thing can be said about movies. Same thing can be said about well, anything as far as like the media goes, anything media
Hmm.
entertainment. Everyone's got a message. I think people tend to like have an inkling more towards like, oh well, I agree with this one, but not that one, and vice versa. You know what
Hmm.
I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I get that. So my argument there is I understand it's art. I agree with that. And, you know, a lot of people go into, well, politics has always been in gaming. It's always been in art, which is true. Um, my argument behind that and the problem that I have is when it's not natural. Like uh, if you want to make the art, don't go into something that's already established and force your political ideology into it. Make your own game
Hmm.
with your own franchise and build upon it. You know, if it's good, people will come and enjoy
Hmm.
it, you know? Um, and I think that's the problem I've had with a lot of the woke stuff. And
Hmm.
even so with the anti woke stuff now is it's not about the art and the politics and making a point. Well, it is, but it's about changing things that are already established, changing lore that's already
Yeah.
established, changing, you know, I can get it, you know, I don't roll my eyes at, well, you know, I roll them a little bit when I see pronouns in Starfield, but
Hmm.
I do have a problem when you take a franchise like Veilgar or Dragon Age and completely butcher it for what seems like an agenda.
Hmm. It's like what is it? Tyrek Kamoji says, for me, an activist in gaming is the individual that wants to enforce their beliefs on games because they think something lacking, e.g., inclusion, or something vulgar. The whole KCD2 draw. Yeah, yeah. But that's the thing. And the key word that you used there was individual. When people say like, "Oh, there's woke activists in gaming," I don't see it as like a grand scheme problem. There are particular like cases that you can pick out, but I don't think it's like the biggest problem. And by the way, I think that could kind of generalize most of my argument. There are
Mm-hmm.
some things that we perceive to be like a mainstream issue,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that they are as mainstream as people make them out to be. For example, go into Steam. How big is that fucking gaming library? Go into the go into the PlayStation store. Go
Mm-hmm.
into the Nintendo eShop, which for some reason also has fucking porn games. I don't know how they snuck into the Nintendo eShop, but they're there too. It's so fucking weird.
Wow.
But you got Xbox Game Pass. We're not starving for games.
Yeah, true.
And mind you, even I'm not a tech guy at all, but I emulated the fuck out of my PC. You don't want to play modern games? That's fine. Emulation is so easy nowadays. If I can figure it out, any fucking guy can. And it's I have like my computer jam packed with like a shitload of retro games.
Mm-hmm.
Like the CIA and FBI can come and I probably have a fucking felony on my PC. But uh we're not starving for games per se. That's why I think we tend to blow things out of proportion. There are choices, a shitload of choices.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that. I think the big argument isn't necessarily because a reason I've not played a lot of the newer games is uh, um, I've been big into the indie scene. Like retro games and indie games I've played tons of here lately. My wish list is full of them. But I think the argument comes into the AAA scene where
Mhm.
you have a lot more of the normie gamers, the people who just buy normal stuff. And I got to call out Vincent here. He said, so at War Gaming Dad is a hater of fake boobs. So I'm guessing he's an all natural guy. Yes, I am. I need you to stop reading my fucking mind. I'm not a big guy on Gooner games either. I don't think they shouldn't exist, but I don't
Mhm.
play Gooner games. Like Stellar Blade isn't of interest to me. I don't need to see a bouncing ass. That's why I married my wife.
I feel this. I feel the same way.
Yeah. So, but when you talk about like what was it that was said, the individual, you're talking about like the individuals in it. I do think it goes deeper than that. It used to go deeper than that. There's a big change in the AAA industry happening. The anti-woke would like to pretend it's them, but it's not. It's gamers speaking up and paying with their wallets.
Sure, and I think that's the best way to see it. Like, just sure. I'm not
Mhm,
saying don't get constructive criticism. You're more than welcome to.
mhm.
But I know sometimes we have an issue when it comes to like how do you say like we say like a blue-haired person. Oh, look at this developer. I can't believe this shit or whatever. And then they go after them. You know, they go after like the blue-haired non-binary person, or the fuck it may be in like in a game in game development.
Mhm.
And it's like, and then people get mad, like, oh, she blocked all these people. Imagine waking up and you have your phone fully full of notifications. By the way, Grum's tweeted me once, so I've been there. So, but imagine waking up, then your phone has got like 1,000 notifications, and yeah, you're looking for constructive criticisms and whatnot, but you're surrounded by like a flood of like, fuck you, you fucking bitch. And it's like, what do you do with that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
what do you do with that
yeah.
then?
Well, so there's two arguments that I think happen with this. One I don't agree with, and one I don't care about. I think
Mm-hmm.
so. Um, I remember it happening during the best examples because it happened during both situations happened during Veilguard. Is there was, as I like to say, a little wretched wokey person. Not that I have anything against that. It's just funny
Mm-hmm.
to see that kind of thing. It's weird to me that all she said was, "I was one of the devs on Veilguard." She didn't. She put it on X. It wasn't her adding any of the anti-wokes or anything like that. And Smash brought her up on his platform. He has a habit of doing this, in fact,
Yeah, I know.
and pointed her out. Right. I have a problem with that one. She's not a culture war person. She's just
A
a
developer.
little, a developer who's, developers can look all sorts of ways. It's always been a fairly diverse agenda. I mean, you could probably say it was really white, but men and women wise. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then on the opposite side, the one I don't care about is the guy who they were going after. He was saying that he was the lead art director. Said he was not going to he was only going to teach black people because they needed to replace him. He was actually going
Ah,
after the
yeah.
anti-wokers. I think my personal belief is if you say something publicly, be prepared to be talked publicly back, right?
True, true.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So with me, I have a problem with the first example. The second example, I'd be just as willing to go after the guy for stupid takes. Um,
But the thing is that that stupid take that that guy had was, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't remember exactly.
mhm.
Wasn't that from like a long time ago? Like, didn't he say that, like years ago or something?
That
I'm not saying this
position,
excusing him.
yes. Yeah. I'm not really talking about that specific incident. That's just how I remember him. Uh,
Mhm.
it was more of him trying to go after the anti woke. If I remember right, which my memory is in question, Avowed was a good one. I really turned against the anti woke during Avowed, Grizzle. But, he was calling gamers rate. I want to believe, if I remember right, he was more active in the culture war scene, calling gamers,
Mhm.
racist or whatever. And to me, if you're gonna pick fights, be prepared to pick fights, and people come back.
I agree,
It's not,
and
yeah,
don't get me wrong, I agree with you there, but up to an extent, because I
sure,
will say this much. Um, let's say, for example, humor me for a second. Hypothetically, let's say IGN, Kotaku, fucking GameSpot, whatever.
hmm
Let's say they throw an article out there with a headline that basically states, uh, I know this is kind of off the developer topic, just to go off on a tangent
hmm
in a second. But let's say they throw a headline out there like, "Oh, gaming sucks because I don't fucking know. Men are misogynistic or whatever lefty fucking term you want to put in there." Me personally, if I see something like that, I'm scrolling through Twitter and that pops up. my first thought is, ah, well, look at that. But that's not me. So what the fuck ever. And I keep scrolling. I just don't understand how. In other words, I'm not identifying what they're saying. I don't think they're talking about me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand how people cannot, do something similar. Because, and I can, I've seen this before where you can actually ignore these big companies into obscurity sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like at least their articles, I mean. Like they don't care about feedback. They want the clicks. And I'm
True.
sorry, but recently, like chuddy people, so to speak, have been very, very reactionary, and they fucking know that. They know that, and they would so they're gonna put those clickbaity type of headlines. But
Mm-hmm.
as an example, that you can actually like ignore that into like the fucking void. Remember back when Resident Evil 5 came out,
Yeah.
and there was a couple of articles saying like, "Oh, is Resident Evil 5 racist because white Chris Redfield is killing black Africans?" I
Yeah,
remember
I
when that.
remember that article.
Okay, I remember those art. I remember there was like one or two articles. So they interviewed, I believe, the voice actors,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked them a similar question, like, "Oh, what do you think about this whole thing?" And they told them like, "What the hell you mean?" I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But what the hell
Mm-hmm.
you mean? Resident Evil 4, you're shooting Spanish people. I mean, are we racist against Spanish people too? But my point is that that outrage that they tried to create with that headline and that article literally went nowhere in like less than a week. People sometimes try to say like, "Oh, it was a big deal." It really wasn't. It was ignored and just put away in the back burner. No one spoke about it. Every now and then you see like an anti-woke YouTube channel try to bring it up again. Nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
And people just and I was surprised for once people actually ignored it. Has that narrative been brought up again by any other article? No. I never saw anybody else talk about it ever again. Why? Because again, they're a company. They're a for-profit company. They want your clicks. You can ignore their narrative into obscurity. No, Vincent, I agree. It did get brought up back again recently, but correct me if I'm wrong, I think it got brought back up by some anti-woke channels. I didn't see any articles. And either way, if an article did bring it up, I don't think anyone was even paying attention to it. Like, it's one of those things that you can just like ignore.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't understand how people can just be so reactionary. Uh,
So I
you see what
agree.
you see what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're trying to get at here, and I can definitely be one of the reactionary people, but I've tried to force myself to dig more into it before I come to an absolute conclusion. Uh, where I think a lot of that hate comes from for the journos has to do with what started Gamergate to begin with. Gamergate started because there was a lot of tension between games journalists and gamers, mostly around games journalists reviews and things like
You mean the
that.
whole
Like,
Zoe Quinn thing?
well, the Zoe Quinn thing was the match that lit Gamergate, but for
Yeah.
years before that, the meme of what is it called? The meme of the IGN 7 out of 10. It means it's a
Yeah.
bad game.
Or
So I
too
mean,
much water.
yeah, I remember reading through like all the articles. A lot of it had more to do with how games journalists were pushing bad games than a lot of the feminist stuff and things like that. That came in after the flame was lit.
Hmm.
Gamergate 1 derailed so hard, laughed my ass off, and they never fixed the problem from 2. Well, I think that comes down to what he's talking about with the reactionary thing, too. So there's a deep hatred between gamers and the media. And while I get that, saying it's better to ignore them, most people can't. I find myself clicking on the article just to see how dumb it is. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It sells.
No,
That
no,
kind of
I feel
stuff
you.
sells. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with criticizing that and making a statement, because what ended up happening to like Kotaku is they wrote so many terrible statements trying to ride that hate wave that eventually everyone was talking about him, so people were watching the people who were talking about him, not going to Kotaku articles.
Yeah.
So I
No,
think
I
they're,
know.
yeah.
I'm not saying that it's an easy thing to do. Obviously,
Hmm.
like, a dopamine fix. Let me go in there and be pissed off about something. But maybe I'm just, I guess, built differently. I'm just
Hmm.
not the whole like fall for like rage bait type of person. And
Hmm.
again, it's something that it's just it's weird to me because if they say something like, "Oh, meta misogynist" or whatever, since I don't identify with that, I think it says more about the person that gets pissed off about, like, dude, what are you getting mad about? Like, do you think they're talking about you personally?
Yeah,
That's the first thought that comes to my mind because to me, I don't give a shit. It's just like, that's not me, and I just keep going.
right. I mean, I agree with that. I don't think I'm a misogynist, but I see where they are. How do I put it? There is a blame towards people who aren't misogynist, right? You remember the Gillette commercial with a guy stopping his friend from chasing a girl? I mean, there's definitely this thing that's happened overarching in politics that's also gone into gaming that
Mhm.
has made people very angry towards that. I like I said, I don't think I'm a misogynist. I don't think I'm I know I'm not a rapist. I'm not a misogynist or any of that stuff.
Mhm.
But it's like uh, calling someone. It's almost like calling someone a slur. If I were to go up to a black friend of mine and I were to hard R him all the time,
Mhm.
he's going to get pissed off eventually. It's not directly saying a slur, but you're basically trying to paint a type of people as bad versus individuals, right?
I
There
don't.
were a lot of
I
articles.
get.
Go ahead.
I get that. It's just maybe it's just a personal thing. Maybe I'm just
Hmm.
the outlier in
Hmm.
this whole thing. But
Yeah,
I don't get that. I never
yeah.
get that feeling of being like, oh, like they are talking about me either directly or indirectly.
Hmm.
It doesn't hit me that way.
Yeah, I get that. I don't think that I think that they're talking about me directly. I think they're trying to. There are points where they've tried to paint a picture.
Probably. Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, but it sucks that it works because again,
Hmm.
they don't care about the feedback. They just want the fucking clicks.
You're right.
And
Absolutely.
they know that people are going to be super reactionary about it. And I think
Hmm.
that's the part that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with you there. If you ignored half of this, well, if you ignored the clickbaity stuff and really only focused on things that you thought were important, like when you do have groups that are going in and changing things, then I think there's less to argue about, right? Because I think they would
Yeah.
lose all their momentum. What do we
Yeah,
have here?
it's like mainstream media. Like they make money off of controversy.
Yeah, yeah,
Because that's what people
exactly,
want to see.
exactly. I
They
mean,
want to
that's
see the
what the
gossip.
true, true. I mean, I like my gossip. Uh, to get into, because we're already talking about left trans, woke trans. I think we've kind of come to a point when we're talking about the news outlets. Uh,
Hmm.
what do you think? Let's move into something more topical. What is your position on Nexus Mod and their decision to remove the male female mod?
My thing with Nexus mods is that I think they're kind of like they're kind of fucked either way
Hmm.
situation because if they please one crowd, they piss off the other. But then they please that one and they piss off the other. The thing with Nexus mods is that see, I'm within the purview that they should keep whatever mod up. I have my own reason, but I'll tell you why in a
Hmm.
second. But I think they should keep the mod up. But they showed their ass. They show their everyone tries to use the whole arguments of like, oh well, they have a political bias. Yeah, sure,
Everyone
everybody does,
does.
especially everyone, especially on social media. If we're gonna be consistent about it, then you might as well critique freaking X at the same time. You're lying to yourself if you're not saying that X has turned into like a very conservative far right thing. But my thing is that it belongs to Elon. He can do whatever the fuck he wants with it.
True.
And mind you, X is also they're not guilty of I mean, they're also guilty of like censoring people. I've had replies deleted. I've had things taken down. And if we're going to be consistent with that mindset, if we're going to criticize Nexus mods, you might as well criticize every other social media platform out there or every other content creating platform. Everyone's got a bias. Nexus mods is just an easy target. Again, I am saying they should keep it up, but they're an easy target because they showed their ass with what their political bias actually is.
Okay.
But again, I just think that they are an easy target because they are the mainstream one, but they're not the end all be all. For fuck's sake, there are other modding websites out there.
Yes, I mean I agree with that. It looks like Grizzle said here, Nexus has to follow UK rules. Is the only stipulation, which yeah, I think the UK tends to be a lot more cucked when it comes to their free speech and stuff like that. I don't know how that would translate with that, male female stuff. I see like this is the actual situation where I think the anti-woke got to win. The problem is they all scream about gamers, one, they don't want male and female. There's only 25,000 people out of the millions, the 4 million playing Oblivion that downloaded that mod. So that's not the win, but the win is they paid, they voted with their wallets and people started removing their premium accounts from them to get it changed. Did they have to change it because of that? No. Vincent made a very good point about the Christian Baker from back in the day. You remember that situation?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Christian, there's no legal, like I would have argued that there was no legal, if someone had tried to bring up a legal case that they needed to bring it back, I would say no. The business controls its own stuff. Right. These people have no idea about some of the supers into modding. Because you again, you can go somewhere else with your wallet. We're in agreement on that. But I do think it's a win for the anti-woke in the fact that they were able to say, hey, we don't like that you did this, and put such an impact in, at least in the modding community. And I would argue that there are mods who aren't anti-wokes that disagreed with that and probably voted with their wallets too and won.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can go to other places, but that doesn't mean you can't make an impact, I think, on a group like Nexus Mod to get it changed. Because even though there are others, Nexus Mod is by far the largest. Except for maybe
very
some.
true, very true.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's why they are an easy target because they are the biggest. They are the biggest ones. But you see, I think they should keep it up because I think it's funny that somebody was actually so fucking like bitchy triggered enough. Like, oh my god, type 1, type 2, I have to delete it. I gotta take personal time and make male and female. Like, really? I mean, sure, you do you, but you're kind of just crying at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Keep it up. This way I can laugh at them and shame them.
Yeah.
It'll just be entertainment for me.
It's the same thing I think about a lot of these mods where you have guys who come in and add all the Gooner stuff and things like that. I was like, did you really need that in the game? There are Gooner games you can go play. I think it's silly. You can do whatever you want with mods. I love them. So yeah, I mean, I probably partially agree with you there. And I probably all the way agree with you there that it's silly that they felt the need to change letters on a screen. It very much mirrors the old idea of wokes crying about something small, right?
Mm-hmm. It's funny. Like I saw somebody out on Twitter not too long ago. Like, oh, why they take it out? Like, dude, you don't think it's funny that someone got so fucking pissed off that they actually took the time to make the mod to begin with?
Yeah.
Fuck you. He blocked me.
Yeah, I've had a few that were like, I had a guy the other day who he made a comment and then immediately blocked me. I don't understand that. I don't understand the whole blocking. Well, I do. If someone annoys you, by all means block them. I've been blocked by pretty much all the big guys, and for very milquetoast takes. My personal stance is, yeah.
I've done it, but mostly like if someone's just like, if they bored me enough, or if they're like just like super annoying and they're not like bringing anything to the table and they're just being like a stalker. All right, fine. I'm done with you. You're blocked. But there are some people I do keep around as like a pet. Like, you know what? I tend to piss you off. I'm gonna keep you around.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to pretty much hold a pretty strict standard of not blocking people, because it doesn't really bother me when people say stuff, things like that. Oh, let's see, Grizzle said, but good God, Nexus got blasted with death threats and insane bigot shit, like unhinged levels of shit, not even edgy. I hate to say that. That was one of the failings of Gamergate, right? Is anytime anything happens on the internet, trolls, now I agree, some of them are the anti-woke community, but there are trolls waiting for those kind of situations, and those trolls go in there and make unhinged comments, and then everyone uses it as victimhood. Doesn't matter if it's Grums, Nexus Mod, things like that. It sucks for Nexus Mod, I think, because they're not culture war guys, but they did make the decision to go with their political bias to remove the male female. How much I believe their quote, I don't know. It's probably somewhere between the anti-woke ideals and theirs. But yeah, for me, I don't put a lot of status on death threats, as long as they're not serious death threats. Like, what I would consider a serious death threat is someone like taking a picture of the outside of your house and then telling you that they're going to kill you, versus a one-off comment like telling me to off myself or that they're going to find me, right?
I feel you, and I am pretty sure that you're within the perspective, like, if you're gonna be online, that you better have a fucking thick skin,
Yeah.
type of thing, which I get, but I'm also within the, in my opinion, that not everyone's the same. Everybody's online, and it could be the most sensitive person, whatever, but that's our world now. The world is technically online. And sure, there are people that are overly sensitive in a very annoying way, but I still try my best to understand that not everyone's the same, and not everyone's going to take things the same way. Are they going to be critiqued by me? Maybe, because I have a bit of a thick skin. Are there things that piss me off? Of course, I'm a human being, but I have a bit of a thick skin, and sometimes it's hard for me to understand when people, are a bit overly sensitive. But I still try to maintain an understanding that, like, yeah, not everyone's going to take things the same way.
Yeah.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no. So, and yeah, I agree on that front. Like, especially when it comes to the more normie people and stuff like that, or just some shitter online, right? You're not expecting to become a big thing and go from nothing in your inbox to thousands of people, talking shit on you. I personally recommend everybody set it so that the only people that can send you messages are people that you follow back.
and as a matter of fact, thank you for Tired Convention. Like, sorry, I don't know if you're a guy or girl, but you just summarized what I've been trying to say the entire time. I don't find most death threats credible, but some people might feel more threatened by it, and that's what I was trying to get at. That's very true.
Yeah, I get that. I definitely get that. I think where I start to get, I'm not really angry, maybe more unhinged. I went at Savvy pretty hard over it, is when you're a content creator. Like, I have less sympathy for content creators that are in these tough subjects, coming out and showing the death threats and things like that to earn sympathy points, I guess, is where my problem is. I understand a shitter feeling scared that all these people are threatening him online, and being afraid of things like that. I can understand that. It doesn't, like, I might not get it, but I can understand that. My problem is when you have either side. Like, if you're gonna make a comment, a rough comment, be prepared to have that come back, right? No matter what side you're on.
Well, I mean, it depends on what we say when it comes also to a rough comment. Like, something you may consider to be a rough comment will be something that'll be like, oh, well, that was fucking nothing. But I don't think we're also not putting up enough emphasis on, like, we are in 2025. We should be evolved people, and maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on, like, we should be better. But in a way, I'm sorry, we should be better. And people should have a bit more control. Like I don't imagine myself going into someone's DMs and doing a death threat. I just don't imagine myself doing that. Will I be a dick? Sure. I'll be an asshole online, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't see myself going into someone's DMs like I'm gonna come at you and I'm gonna do this, this, that, and this. And it's I think sometimes we do need to put some blame also. Not sometimes, but many times we need to put blame also on that individual. Like just how unhinged do you have to be that you felt so heated enough to go into someone's DMs and say something like that? Sure, the person who was the host should also have thick skin. I do not
Hmm.
deny that. But we also need to put into perspective that the person that actually did that is 100% in the wrong and should have some fucking self-control. You're a human being. You're a fucking adult. Act like it.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying there, definitely, because I would never go into someone's DMs and I don't do death threats. I don't believe in that. I don't need to, right? I can hurt your fifis in a nice way sometimes, but my argument is like, how do you do that? The only way, like, you're never going to know who this person is. It could be a burner account. It could be any number of things. Yes, it's their fault. They're going to probably do it again. They're probably the kind of person that gets off on that kind of stuff. But the only thing you can do with them is ignore them. Because then they don't get what they want and they eventually go somewhere else. Because I wouldn't even go to, as much as I like to make fun of people online and things like that. If I got a death threat in my DMs, I probably wouldn't start mocking them, just for the
Yeah.
fear that it could be someone who has some kind of hacking skills, finding people skills. You never know nowadays. So to me, it's
Hold that
the
thought for just one
Mhm,
quick second. I'm so sorry.
mhm.
It's just,
Yeah,
I hear my dogs being a pain in the ass. I'm just gonna go check on them real quick. I
yeah,
have
go ahead.
3 dogs, and God, they could be a pain. It'll be like 2 seconds.
Yeah, not a problem. What's chat saying on here? Last time you did it was because, who were we talking about? Yeah, I agree. Hyper specific death threats are crazy. Like, why would you spend all of your time crafting the perfect death threat? Uh, yeah, an airbag I've seen it's funny sometimes. Like, I have a dark sense of humor, so I see that stuff, then I think it's funny. I personally wouldn't do it like airbag does.
Man, I love my dogs to death, but Jesus Christ, it could be a pain in the ass.
It's all right. I got 2 dogs and 2 pigs, so
Oh shit.
yeah, that's where my pig comes from. The avatar is actually my pig Hammy, who's my oldest. He's a mini potbelly, and then
I
Fern
wanna
is
wanna address some of that gazing saying here
uh-huh.
about airbag. He's
Hmm.
dark woke as dark woke can be. He's a troll at heart. Listen, I want to address that whole dark woke thing for a second. Uh, I am so for that. I am so for that because again, actually put this in a post this morning. Like, left-leaning people need to change their fucking narrative. Stop being nice. But don't get me wrong. If someone wants to approach in a good faith conversation, go for it. But you need to stop being nice to people. You gotta be, because thankfully that's kind of like I've seen like that happen a lot. Because God, we used to be so PC. Even me at some point.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I used to be like a bit more of a politically correct person. I've always been like a New Yorker at heart. That like whatever the fuck, I don't care, blah blah. But I always approached everything like as, I guess, nice as possible. But not everyone deserves that respect. Sorry, not everyone deserves that fucking respect, and you shouldn't have to give it to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's always kind of gone bad for the woke is they they do that nice guy persona, but then they have unhinged people like everyone does. And the right has always used the argument, well, they say they're the nice guys and then they send death threats, which to me is a stupid argument. It's back to the death threat thing. But yeah, I think more people should take that dark woke approach, like actual internet, that actual internet mentality of going back and forth with each other, arguing,
Mhm.
doing edgier things. I came from the opposite thing. I was an army guy, 19 years, uh, as a cavalry scout. So like combat MOS. I have very dark humor.
Semper Fi, motherfucker.
Oh no, my wife's a Marine, or was a Marine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So only for the 3. She did her 3 and got out. But were you a Marine? I guess.
No, 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 no.
I don't know.
I have family that
I feel like
I have family that was in the military, but it wasn't really
yeah.
never my thing.
Gotcha. I figured most progressive people don't tend to go that way. No,
I
tends to be
actually almost did.
higher.
I was thinking about it. I actually almost did. But I backed out.
Nice. Well, it's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Um, so let's see. So we've talked about some good stuff here. You wanted to talk about a little bit of the localization. I don't know much about it.
We can touch
Uh,
on that real quick.
yeah. Well,
And we
hold
could
on. What?
touch on that, and then afterwards, I was actually gonna discuss what I feel like are the actual problems in the gaming industry. But we can do
Yeah.
localization first. Like the reason why I brought it up is because I saw the conversation recently came up again about it, and it's basically like people are having an issue uh, with the way games are translated from Japanese to English, and they swear up the ass that there's like some sort of like invasion of like, as you call woke activists, like
Mm-hmm.
invading like the translation type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. When that, from what I've seen, that's not the case at all. Localization is a very complex thing. Are you bilingual by any chance?
Not even a little bit. I've
Okay.
actually tried to learn Spanish, but I pretty much been told my dyslexia is bad enough that it would be very difficult for me to learn another language. I have
So
problem
I'm
with English.
so I speak Spanish. It's my second language, and actually, I just to get ready for this discussion, I actually watched the whole. There's a YouTube channel called Resident Arc,
Mm-hmm.
and they did an interview a couple of months ago with a localizer that worked on so many games, Final Fantasy 12, 10, Vagrant Story, a whole bunch of other games, and he was basically like discussing the process. There are people that they're asking for direct translations from Japanese to English.
Oh
Being a bilingual
God.
person, yeah, being a bilingual person, that's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to work. For example, when we say in English, we're from the 90s. A term we used to use, oh, you're a chicken, as a way to say you're a coward. I mean, how would you say that in Spanish? Tú eres un pollo, tú eres una gallina. It doesn't, people are going to look at that like, huh? It doesn't make any sense. You have
Mm-hmm.
to like switch it around to where it's supposed to like fit the Spanish language and use a phrase that they actually use, again, as an example. And that's
Yeah.
even harder because just like many other countries, Japan has several different types of dialects. America has different types of dialects. Canada, the UK has a fuckload of different dialects. Every country has, and so what is it that you're trying to represent from each thing? Let me see what this person. My main issue with localization is when they cram slang the way that it feels like it changed the whole feel of the sentence. Okay, someone brought that up today during the interview that I saw. Two things about that. One, and I'll give you a perfect example. In Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, uh, there's a girl that you play the card game with, Queen's Blood. I don't know if you played Rebirth yet. Amazing game, but it has a card game, and you play that card game against a little girl. She uses a phrase that we use. I guess it's time for me to take the L, and so that's what she says. And it's
Uh,
some
it's
people had some people had an issue with that. Turns out, and if I'm remembering correctly, there's a similar slang phrase that they use in Japan when they say something like that, but they needed to figure out, okay, they say this in Japan. How do young people say it in the States or in the West? They
mm-hmm.
use this term, so we'll use that instead. And if I think in that perspective, that kind of makes sense. It's fine in on this context. Well, and I'm pretty sure, and I think I know what Tire Komeji is going to bring up. Probably the whole unicorn overlord thing or the whole metaphor fantasio thing. So there is an issue in Japan, mainly in game development, with writing. It's not that they're bad writers. If you see like a direct translation sometimes, they seem a little. I'm not trying to, and by the way, I'm not trying to minimize it. They just seem like a little bland. There
Mm-hmm.
are excellent. I'm not saying that Japan are bad writers. No, they're excellent writers. But when it comes to gaming, they have an issue. The writers there are overworked, so sometimes their writing doesn't come out as good. So yes, some things will be switched around to the way where we can understand it within our the way that we speak it and whatnot. I don't see an issue with that. Again, the writers in Japan, they're like apparently they're like severely overworked. So sometimes that and the guy that they interviewed and that I saw today, he even spoke to writers in Japan, and he was like, "What do you make of this?" And even that writer was like, "It's pretty bad. That's pretty bad." And again, it's because it's not that they're bad writers; they just don't have the time to like actually put in like the work to be like much more expansive, so to speak, with their writing.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to localizing, they switch it up a bit. They probably like add something that we're more familiar with. I mean, think about it. Oh, another good example that they brought up was you ever play the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney games?
I never did. I see the memes for them all the time. It was just never a game I fell into.
They're great. They're fantastic. They're also very jokey. Apparently, that game is very hard to translate and localize because all the jokes that they use are like deep, deep Japanese jokes that nobody would just not understand here.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to change into like some kind of like American joke, and that's
And it falls flat a
well,
lot of times.
yeah. Actually, no, I think Ace Attorney's fucking hilarious. I have a great
Oh,
time when I
fair.
play it. Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. The jokes that they put in there, they're actually not bad at all. Yeah, Ace does do a good job, but
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to translate because it's like fuck, no one's gonna understand these Japanese jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to, and that's the thing. Like, how are you going to sell a game to a particular market if they're not going to understand what it is? I'm pretty sure they'll get like the actual message of what the game might be about, like the actual plot or the actual like complete storyline, but the
Mm-hmm.
moment to moment storytelling, that's a difficult thing to localize. You have to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what dialect you're going to use. uh Final Fantasy 12 has different English accents in the translation because in Japan it has different tones of the way that they speak in Japan with certain races. Some of them even use like ancient samurai type of speaking. How do you
Mm-hmm.
translate that to America? You see what I'm
Yeah.
getting at?
Well, you do it with a black samurai. That's how. But yeah, I get what you're saying. So yeah, I understand language can be pretty different. That makes a lot of sense to me. I have I don't watch a lot of anime anymore, but I've seen this in action. And one of my favorite animes of all time is Vampire Hunter D. Uh,
Oh, great anime.
yeah, great anime. So I wanted to, when I found out the writer of it had written a book or a series of books, I would say, I went and bought them. They are definitely a hard read when it comes to
Hmm.
it because it's like uh, D moved at this speed, uh,
Yeah.
600 kilometers. It's so I could see that. Now to get into what little I have seen was a while back, and don't flame me for this, but I saw it in a Rev video. As weird
Oh
as
my
that
god.
guy is, yeah, is I guess there was a
Isn't that to do
case,
with the freaking the girl with
female, yeah,
glasses
yeah, the
VTuber?
lolly
Yeah.
VTuber, and he's a guy clearly. Um, so he was bringing up a very specific case, I think, to argue with it, and it was some dragon made something or other. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know the anime personally. Lollytuber, yeah, definitely a lollytuber. That's a whole different argument. But
Yeah.
in the scene that he showed, the localization had been changed, or when they had done the localization, the what I mean, and again, this is me not digging very deep into it, not knowing the localization community, or anything like that. It seemed like the thing was supposed to say like something about your sister or having a good time or something like that, but it was changed to, or I think she was asking how you're doing. That's what it was. Like, how are you doing? And the person coming inside said something, but in the translated version, it said, "Oh, oh, just feeling like pulled down by the patriarchy." And to me, I felt like, uh, at least at the time, like, well, that feels really off. Like they showed another example of a game, of it, like some older game where it was translated and it was just kind of Zoomer talk. And I was like, well, I mean, they're trying to change it to meet kids' needs, but this other particular one was very felt politically motivated, very feminist coded. And then I think there was a conversation with the people went, of course, they did what they do. They went after the localizer who was in it, and she said she's not quitting her job and she's going to do it again and again and again to piss off the chuds. Do you know anything more about that situation?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
That's foreign to me.
Yeah, it was.
I have to look that up a bit more because I never heard of that.
Yeah, it was back in, because that's where I thought all the localization stuff was coming. But if it's coming from the place that you're talking about, where they're just trying to translate and it doesn't always fit, yeah, it's been that way for years. I watched Dragon Ball Z as a kid, and
Same.
yeah, and it's always like okay. I was the biggest fan growing up as a kid of Godzilla. I had every Godzilla movie.
Oh hell
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I had all the Rodan stuff. I had Monster Island, and the localization, the translation is bad, very bad.
Yeah.
Back then. So it's always been kind of natural for me to think that there's always going to be a problem with it. So I don't know that I have much to disagree with you on that.
And the thing is that sometimes people I don't think people realize that even if something is sort of changed, what they do is again, I'm not too sure about the manga cases. You guys are probably right. I have no idea, and I'll just take that because you're most likely correct because I have no clue. But
Mm-hmm.
they do actually consult with like the Japanese writers
Mm-hmm.
sometimes to like figure out like what's the best way we can go about this. And I'll end it with this. Like my favorite localization story is actually about Final Fantasy X. Did you play Final Fantasy X?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, fucking love that! Fucking love that game. So at the end, there's a really, really big difference, huge
Mm-hmm.
difference between Japan and the United States. But it's a good difference, and at the same time, when I'll explain why, it does make sense. Spoiler alert for who hasn't played Final Fantasy X. Sorry, I don't know if you want to mute me for a second, but I'm about to give away the entire ending. It's an old game, but play it, play it, play it. It's a great game. So if you want to like
Mm-hmm.
go away for a sec, I get it. At the end, Tidus is he's a dream. He's fading away, and Yuna runs towards him, and she kind of like passes through him,
Mm-hmm.
and she falls. And when she gets up, she tells to Tidus, "I love you." In Japanese, she actually says "arigato," which is thank you.
Ah, okay. I could see
So
where that could be
you can see where
better.
this is going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they had a difficulty when it came to translation specifically for Final Fantasy X. It was Square Enix's first game to have full-on voice acting. The problem was that they did lip syncing strictly for Japanese dialogue. So they had to find words that fit perfectly with the lip syncing in English. However, in Japanese, arigato means more than just thank you. It depends the situation. Yeah, you can get like a something from somebody, but like, oh, thank you, and you walk off. But it also means something like during death. It means like a lot more. Like if someone is like in their deathbed, and they look up to their family and they say thank you in Japanese, it actually means we've been through a lot and I love that you were there for me.
Huh.
Believe it or
Okay.
not, believe it or not, it means that. So, how do you translate that to Final Fantasy X? Are you really gonna have? Because to us, thank you is just thank you. What, you're
Hmm.
gonna have Yuna stand up, look at Tidus, and be like, "Thanks, bro." It's not gonna
Yeah.
work. You need something as impactful as that type of thank you that they use in Japan. What do we find to be impactful? And that also happens to match up with the lip syncing at that moment. I love you.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely makes sense on there. Like I said, I don't think I have a lot of disagreements with you. Looks like Kamoji said Katrina Linowski or Linowski, I can't pronounce names, was the woman that she didn't help her case. So maybe look up stuff on
Okay.
her with it. It was
I will.
pretty crazy. Like I was definitely like, oh, this sounds very woke. But yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with you on this section. It's pretty silly to me that people, and also because I just went through the situation with the Czech guy, the I don't know if you're still there, Skinny, but yes, I see you typing. Uh, Translation where it's been completely abused to use it. In fact, we can. Do you have anything more to convince me about with localization?
No, no, no. That's just I just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
I definitely gotta look up the whole manga situation because that's very interesting to me too. Again, I'm pretty sure just like everything else, there has to be bad actors in the whole
Yeah.
thing. But I just wanted to I like to bring that whole thing aware, especially as a bilingual person, that translation and localization is not an easy endeavor.
Hmm.
I've seen like I've done my best to like look up as much information I can on it, and it's definitely not like something simple. And I think people are doing their best to simplify it as much as possible. Like, oh, I just want a direct translation. How the fuck do you think that's going to work? I can tell people don't speak a second language. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to like I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal, but I could just fucking tell.
Yeah, it's a very American perspective. I've in my life I've met many multilingual people. Like I worked with some Bulgarians, and in that world they know Bulgarian, they know Russian, they know Czech. It's very common in European countries, and I mean even the Spanish American here in the United States to know multiple languages, to be able to
Yeah.
communicate regularly. So I get that. I knew
Hmm.
one girl who was going to be a linguist, and she could fluently speak 11 languages, which I thought was crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, but that's
I
what she
knew
was in
someone
college
that
for.
spoke five,
Hmm.
but 11.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
I don't have a big enough brain
It's
for that.
it's tough enough being bilingual. Like there are
Hmm.
words that I even forget in English and I say in Spanish sometimes. I don't
Hmm.
even want to imagine fucking 11 languages. That is insane. Credit to where it's
Hmm.
due, man. That's amazing.
Hey Grizzle, if you're eepy, it's okay. You can go to bed. I don't mind. We may be kind of wrapping it up here soon. I know Mark had one other thing he wanted to talk about. I don't know that we're going to dig
Yeah.
too much into the Grum stuff. I think that's going to be a lot of agreement there, and I don't want us to just sit here and suck each other off
Yeah,
per
we don't
se.
have. Yeah, exactly. I'll say the exact. I was gonna say we're not gonna be here and jerk each other off. Yeah,
Yeah. So.
but I will say this much. I mean, if there is one thing, I guess to like summarize like the whole wokeness conversation, anti-woke thing and whatnot, I could think that the one thing that bothers me the most is just how muddied and how poisoned the well has fucking been when it comes to like the conversation behind what I think are the actual issues in the gaming industry. And I mean like overbloated budgets, unrealistic infinite growth that these companies want, the unrealistic returns on investment, like, oh, if we didn't make like $1 trillion then it failed or whatever.
Mhm.
uh the I know some people have their thing crunch. Yeah, thank you, that is a definite thing that bothers me as well. I know some people are like, I am pro labor, obviously. The layoffs annoy the crap out of me. You need people to make games, obviously, and the
Mhm.
whole rise of AI thing, you're never going to get an AI to do what a human can do. some people see the layoffs as like, oh well, they're laying off that blue-haired, pink-haired college student, and I don't like them, so I'm fine with it. Motherfucker, if you think that your favorite, or if anyone thinks that their favorite franchise, their favorite game or company is safe, ain't nobody safe. Not in this economic climate. If that blue hair person could get laid off, that next freaking company that you like can also go through layoffs. And I'll give a perfect example. Uh, Tango GameWorks. We are lucky that they got scooped up when they did.
Mm-hmm.
If in case some of you forgot, Tango GameWorks is the company that made Hi-Fi Rush and The Evil Within, and a few other games
Oh
also.
yeah, the successful company that got canned for their successful game, right?
Exactly, exactly, and that's the thing. So again, even though they did make a comeback, they were fine. But since they didn't make the money that the company fucking wanted, they got
Mm-hmm.
almost completely canned. And and that's why I think everyone should be against the layoffs because, and again, even if it was a conservative company, I don't give a shit. Nobody should be fucking laid off like that because again, every franchise out there is on the cutting room floor because some greedy ass fucking investor didn't get their profit margin of like 10 billion fucking dollars. And I think that is bullshit. I'm even surprised that Marvel vs. Capcom made a comeback. That franchise was supposed to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'll just leave this one last thing. Like, personally, I'm not okay for some CEO or asshole investor to be the defining factor of what I should and should not be playing. And I think that's a mentality that a lot of people should have. And that's what bothers me with the whole anti woke scene. I think that these are the actual issues in the gaming industry. I love
Mm-hmm.
games. I've said it before. I love them to death. I grew up with them. To see them in that state right now, it does bother me. It's more than
Mm-hmm.
just a hobby to me. It's like it's my thing. I fucking love them.
Oh yeah,
And
we grew up playing games, you know.
exactly, that's what bothers me. You think it's the woke people that's like destroying everything? No, 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 no. Sure, are there issues with them? Whatever, fine. Yes, we can talk about that as well. I think the real issues though are everything else I just basically pointed out.
Yeah,
And the conversation is so fucked because of all these freaking anti woke grifters just fucking up the entire discourse. That frustrates me.
it frustrates me too. I'm gonna have some disagreements when it comes to the layoffs, right? Not that I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying the layoffs are deserved, but I knew they were coming, right? So
Mm-hmm.
before um before COVID in 2020, we kind of had a boom, like a golden age of gaming, right? There
Yeah.
was, of course, the fights you're talking about, the real issues that we should be fighting about, where
Mm-hmm.
companies were fighting gamers about the price of games, about loot boxes, which gamers won pretty much on loot boxes outside of like
Yeah.
gotcha games. Uh,
Yeah.
that monetization in general.
Oh yeah.
Like, and when, so the gaming industry, even during all of that, the gaming industry, AAA industry was in growth. And with that, they were under the idea that you just hire more people, make better games, which wasn't a thing. That exploded when COVID hit. Everyone was inside.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about the 4 billion that AC Vikings, what is it called? AC Assassin's Creed Valhalla
Valhalla.
made. Yeah, Valhalla. It made, it was four. I hated the game. I tried to play it. I have hated Assassin's Creed since it went RPG, since they put RPG mechanics fully into it.
Mm.
But I'm a stealth guy and a
Yeah.
purist. So what's happening to what the companies are doing in thinning out, I think is a good thing. I know they're not firing the blue-haired trans chick because she's probably pretty good at her job. She might be just as good as anyone else. I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
They're, uh, but they're the thinning itself down is because I've been saying for years that companies are bloated. It sucks. I hate it for these game devs because at the end of the day, it's the fault of the leadership that this is happening.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. But what I'm hoping we'll see is a lot of these game devs go into we're seeing a renaissance in gaming for AA, for indie, for things like that. These games are making these companies that are small and independent are making banger after banger. I mean, just the beginning of this year has been showing that. So some people will talk about like gaming falling apart, the gaming crash. There's never going to be a crash. What's going to happen is these new gaming companies will rise up and the bigger companies are going to thin themselves out so that they can be more focused, I think, on gaming is what we'll see. So all that yapping, I disagree that it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, but there's a lot of bad that's happening. Like it was completely avoidable. Who was it? Nazmir. I got to talk to him more too. Open my eyes that the crash never was a thing. It's all fake. Yeah. So I hear people talking about like EA failing. EA is never going to fail. They have FIFA. They could live off of FIFA for their entire life. That game just prints money. It's the only loot box game left.
There's a lot of companies out there too big to fail. But again, like sure, like companies were over bloated, but that's not the staff's fault.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That came from the higher up. And that happened to a lot of industries during COVID. Like, oh my God, everyone's deciding we can hire, and just take like all this money. We could do this, that, and this. And next, they're hiring all these people. Mind you, I mean, come on, these are people's livelihood, and why? Because you overhired. Like, oh, by the way, my bad, we fucked up. But even though I'm the one who fucked up, you're the one that has to go home.
Yeah, that I agree. And like I said, it sucks for a lot of these game devs. I'm hoping they either start their own development companies or get picked up by some of the AA guys. Because I think there still could be a good thing by some of these people being let go by the grind of the AAA industry and moving into the more independent industries and things like that are out there.
We'll see. Again, we're not, like I said before, we're not, we tend to hyper focus on controversy, but we're not starving for games. I mean,
absolutely.
You're my age, man. Just a couple of years ago, a fucking RoboCop game came out, and that game is fucking amazing. Indiana Jones recently. I love Indiana Jones. I grew up with it. My dad was a big Indiana Jones fan, and when that game came out, I just lost my shit. I'm like, fuck yeah, good Indiana Jones game. There's a Terminator 2 2D sprite pixel art SNES style game coming out soon also. So again, we're not starving for games.
If you have a type of game you want to play, like I love roguelites. Likes, because there's roguelike and then there's roguelite. So but I love roguelikes. One of my favorite games is Caves of Cud. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's a very small niche game.
I gotta check it out then.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those games like when your character dies, he's gone for good. Kind of games, but it has all sorts of cool stuff. We'll talk about that later. But there's a niche for you. Like people were talking about the CRPGs. Fern, my wife is bringing the pigs in because I've been talking here too long, and they sleep in the house. That's where they have their own little beds. They're house pigs.
I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of fucking adorable.
Yeah. Oh, I love my pig. I got my first pig by mistake, but they're better than dogs. Like Hammy came to us house trained, and he's only ever had like one or two accidents in the house. Fern came to us and was house trained by Hammy. Pretty much, we didn't do anything.
My wife wants a pig, and she's one of the she just like we love animals, but I always tell like, okay, I'm not cleaning this shit because I'm not the one asking for a pig. She wants chickens too, and I'm like, dude, I'm not cleaning that fucking coop.
I want chickens. One thing I'll say about pigs is they're very trainable. They're very smart. But when I say mini pig, Hammy will probably grow to be 300 pounds.
Holy
That's a
shit.
mini pig. It just means they're
I mean,
lower to
big,
the
big.
ground. Yeah, yeah. Right now, I think he's probably around 80 pounds or so.
Yeah. Wow.
He, yeah.
Goddamn. Well, I
But
mean,
anyway,
I think we could probably like, I don't know, unless you have something else to add on. I think we can end it here. Man, this was a good talk. Really good
yeah,
talk.
I had a lot of fun. It's good that we at least had some things we don't disagree on. I like talking to people who are of the opposite opinion of me, right? I want
Same,
to,
same.
yeah, it's more fun. And it didn't happen with us, obviously, but I like heated arguments. I generally don't get mad at heated arguments if we're talking about sensitive subjects. So, uh,
I only get into heated arguments with people if I see that they're being dishonest
mm-hmm,
or they're being disingenuous in their art. Like I've spoken to people that I can tell that they don't believe in the shit that they're saying. They're
mm-hmm,
just saying it because they just want to like be right or they just want to have a heated discussion in general.
mm-hmm.
And I don't tolerate that. If I'm going to
Yeah.
talk to someone, if it's someone that I disagree with, I prefer it to be like a constructive, adult, honest conversation. I cannot speak to dishonest people. I'll just treat them like I do on fucking Twitter and tell them like, yeah, well, your wife is gonna ride me or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that stuff, especially with the people who are just absolutely, like I say, you can't talk a retard out of something they already retarded themselves into, right? So it's that way. Melanie Mack. So I'll say this, Grizzle, before we go out. I think it was Vincent who mentioned it, that Melanie Mack is very much a born again Christian. I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think she's lying about being a born again Christian. Uh, she also has a very dark past. She just seems like one of those people that had, uh, a dark past. So when it comes to her Christianity, she is more decisive. But I do believe that a lot of the things that she's talking about, especially with like porn and things like that, she does believe in. I think she tries to stay relevant by saying slurs and stuff like that instead of really talking about
Mhm.
the issues. But I do believe there's a lot of like, I believe she's more Christian than Andy Pants will ever be.
Probably. Yeah,
Uh,
I can agree there, but I do
mhm.
think that she also just is too over performative,
Yeah.
and she wants to and she, just to stay relevant. And I still think that that's being dishonest. Like if you really do want to have a change, you need to not just be true to yourself, but just like chill a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you can't sit down and talk to somebody and come to a decision, it never changes anything. It's just the wokes yelling at the anti wokes at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Which now the anti wokes have anti wokes yelling at the anti wokes, and that'll
Oh my
slip
god.
until we kick them out.
I'm hoping that dies out soon. Just let them fucking fight each other into obscurity. Whatever. They
Yeah.
can do their thing.
Well, I mean, I'm one of those anti wokes, and I like getting in the mud and
Yeah,
talking
but
about
dude,
them.
in all honesty, you're not that bad. I mean, you at least approach a conversation. I'm pretty sure you
Well,
still
okay.
have your beliefs, but you can reach a common ground somewhere.
True, but true, and I think that with anybody, I always at least first try and come to an agreement. Uh, I don't mind getting into people's faces and asking, I guess, the hard questions. He's not an alt right.
Hmm.
That's right. I'm not an alt right. Not at all. Like I said, I'm very much more libertarian. I come from the army thing, so if I'm gonna say it to these guys, I'm gonna say it like it is. And I would love to have a conversation with them, even some of the very more far right guys. Like I would even have a conversation with the Will of the Fans, even though I know he absolutely hates me. Uh, Knowing that conversation would get very heated, and I may say things that aren't nice. I even came into
Nah,
this conversation.
I would just debate Andy Pants to make him cry.
I would too. He's so weak.
He really is. He's such a bitch. He's
Hmm.
such a pussy.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It didn't take long for him to block me as I was just tearing his arguments apart. That was my first block on X. actually. But
Not surprised.
yeah.
But anyway,
All right. Well, it's been fun, Mark.
that was a pleasure, man.
Yeah, I'd like to have you on again, even if it's me watching. Like, I think I'm going to try and watch more videos and stuff like that on the anti woke. Any of you guys too that follow me on X or anything like that, y'all can come into my Discord and give me something that you saw from the anti wokes to watch. I'll probably do it while playing games. Saturday is probably going to become my gaming full on stream though. But yeah, I like talking about these subjects. So feel free, let me know, and I'll bring you on again and we can talk about a subject.
Absolutely. And to chat, appreciate you guys. Thank you. I thought that chat was gonna like eat me alive, but you guys have been cool as shit. So I will catch you guys. I'll catch you guys later.
All right.
You've been great.
Mm-hmm. All right, all right. So that was good. That was a nice soft conversation. I think it was interesting. All right, Kamoji. Uh, glazing, grizzle. There we go. Y'all go get some sleep time. I'm about to go do the same. And I'll see y'all on Friday if y'all come by. We'll see if we can find anything to talk about. Later. So it didn't pop up. Interesting.